My name is Leah. I am 23 years old. I live in a small town with my grandmother. She raised me after my parents died. We do not have much money. My grandmother sews clothes for neighbors, and I work in a small hotel near the bus station. I clean rooms, carry towels, and change bed sheets. It is hard work, but I do it every day. I smile at guests even when I feel tired. My manager says I am quiet and careful. Maybe that is true, but I have a secret dream. I want to sing. Since I was a little girl, I loved music. I sang while washing dishes. I sang while walking to school. I sang softly at night before sleep. My grandmother always said, "Leah, your voice is special." Still, I never believed big dreams were for people like me. Girls like me worked. Girls like me stayed quiet. Girls like me did not stand on bright stages. So I kept my dream inside my heart and told no one. Every evening after work, I went to the old music hall near the square. It was closed now, but I liked to sit on the steps and sing very softly when no one was near. It made me feel alive. It made me feel like my real self. One cold autumn night, I finished work late. I was tired and hungry. When I came home, I saw something strange. There was a white envelope under our front door. I picked it up and looked at it. My name was written on the front. Just one word, "Leave me hands." Became cold. I opened it slowly. Inside was a note. It said, "I heard you sing near the old music hall. Do not stop. Your voice is beautiful. Come tomorrow at p.m. hall door. Come alone." There was no name. I read the note many times. My grandmother saw my face and asked, "What happened?" I showed her the paper. She looked worried at once. "Do not go," she said. "It could be dangerous." Maybe she was right, but all night I thought about the note. Someone had heard me. Someone said my voice was beautiful. And no one outside my grandmother had ever said that to me before. The next day, I could not think clearly at work. I nearly broke a cup and forgot fresh towels in one room. My manager asked if I was sick, but I only said I was tired. At 6:30 in the evening, I put on my coat and left home. My grandmother tried to stop me, but I kissed her cheek and said, "I will be careful." When I reached the old music hall, the street was quiet. The sky was dark blue. A cold wind moved through the empty square. I stood near the door and waited. Then I heard footsteps. An older man came from the side of the building. He had gray hair and a long black coat. His face looked serious, but not cruel. He stopped in front of me and asked, "Are you Leah?" I nodded. He said, "My name is Mr. Vance. I used to direct music here many years ago." I did not know what to say. He looked at me carefully and added, "3 nights ago, I heard you sing." Then he took a key from his pocket and opened the hall door. He said, "Come in." The room inside was dark, dusty, and silent. Old red seats stood in long lines. The stage was empty. A single piano waited in the corner under a cloth cover. I walked slowly, almost afraid to breathe. Mr. Vance stood near the stage and said, "Sing now?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "Now." My hands shook. The hall was huge. My voice felt small in my throat. But then I closed my eyes and began. First, my voice was soft, then stronger, then full. The room carried the sound back to me. The old hall woke up. For a few minutes, I forgot my poor clothes, my hotel job, and my fear. I was only the song. When I finished, the silence felt deep. Mr. Vance said nothing for a moment, then he nodded once. "Come back tomorrow," he said. That was how everything began. For the next weeks, I worked at the hotel during the day and came to the hall every evening. Mr. Vance taught me how to breathe, how to stand, and how to hold long notes. He was strict. If I sang badly, he said so. If I stood badly, he corrected me. If I sang with fear, he told me, "Do not hide behind your voice." Sometimes I went home tired and close to tears. Sometimes I thought, I cannot do this. But the next day I came back. Slowly, my voice changed. It became stronger and clearer. I also changed. I stood straighter. I looked up more. I still felt shy, but not as weak as before. One evening, after a hard lesson, I asked him, "Why are you helping me?" He looked away for a moment, then he said, "Because once, many years ago, I heard a voice like yours. But I was too late to help her." I did not ask more questions. His eyes were full of old pain. Winter came, snow touched the streets. Still I kept going. Then one evening, Mr. Vance told me something that changed everything. He said, "The town winter concert is in 2 weeks. You will sing there." I thought he was joking. "In front of people?" I asked. "Yes," he answered. "I can't," I said quickly. "I sing only when no one looks at me." He stepped closer and said, "That is why you must do it." I wanted to say no. I wanted to run home, but instead, I whispered, "All right." The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. I practiced until my throat hurt. I sang in the morning. I sang in the evening. I even sang in my mind before sleep. My grandmother watched me with worried eyes, but also with pride. She fixed my old blue dress so I could wear it at the concert. She even put small white buttons on the sleeves to make it look nicer. The night of the concert came. The hall was no longer dusty and dark. It was full of light and people. Women in warm coats, men in dark hats, children whispering. The sound of many voices filled the air. I stood behind the curtain and felt sick with fear. "I cannot do it," I said. Mr. Vance looked at me and said, "Yes, you can." Then he placed one hand lightly on my shoulder and added, "Your voice was not given to you to stay hidden." My name was called. My legs felt weak, but I walked onto the stage. The lights were bright. I could not see faces clearly, only shapes. Still, I knew many people were watching me. For one terrible second, I forgot how to breathe. Then I looked into the front row. My grandmother was there. Her hands were pressed together. Her eyes were full of tears, and suddenly, I was not afraid in the same way. I began to sing. The first line came out small, then the second, then the third, and then something opened inside me. My voice grew. It filled the hall. I sang about pain, hope, waiting, and light. I sang everything I had carried inside me for years. I sang for my grandmother. I sang for the little girl I once was. I sang for the part of me that had stayed silent too long. When I finished, the room was still for 1 second, then people began to clap. Not little claps, real claps, loud claps. Some people stood. Backstage, my whole body was shaking. My grandmother ran to me and held me tightly. "You did it," she whispered again and again. But that was not the end. After the concert, a woman came to speak with me. She was from a music school in the city. She said she wanted me to audition for a training program. I thought I heard her wrong. "Me?" I asked. She smiled and said, "Yes, you." A week later, I traveled to the city. I was afraid again, but this time it was a different fear. It was the fear of a new life. The audition room was large and cold. 3 people sat behind a table. They looked serious. My hands were shaking, but I remembered Mr. Vance's words. "Do not hide." So I sang. A month later, I was accepted. When I told Mr. Vance, he only said, "Good, now work harder." But then, after a small silence, he added, "Your mother would be proud." I looked at him in shock. "You knew my mother?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "That was when I learned the truth. Many years ago, before I was born, my mother also loved to sing. She came to the same hall. Mr. Vance once wanted to teach her too. But life became hard for her, and later she got sick. She died before her dream could live." I cried when I heard this, not only because of the sadness, but because now I understood why his eyes were always full of old pain. He was helping me because, in some quiet way, he was also trying to keep her song alive. Now I live in the city and study music. I still work hard, I still get scared before I sing, but I do not hide anymore, and sometimes, when I stand on a stage and the lights shine on me, I remember that first white envelope under the door, one piece of paper, one stranger's words, one night. That was all it took to begin. Moral: a dream can stay silent for years, but one brave step can wake it up. Sometimes the life you want begins with one small chance.